the value on intuition, compassion, that sense of being one with something larger, innate harmony that we can just get to pretty quickly by dropping into that part of ourselves that I call the heart center. Others call it the soul, the essential self. So I value what that part has to say in each person.
So, hello everyone who is listening today. I have a very special lady with me in our talk. She stands as a visionary leader and a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, which I think is very important in these times. And she emphasizes the transformative power of women's circles. And in this, she's highlighting their ability to deepen friendships and amplify the voice of the soul. It is called the Wisdom Circle and created by Robin Mullin. So very welcome, Robin. It's so beautiful to meet you here again. How are you?
Yes, thank you. It's delightful to be with you again. You're my soul sister, book sister.
Yeah, yeah. As a book sister, we just met a couple of months ago in US and had a wonderful trip in the book launch from the Intuition book. And I think we talk a little bit more about that later. Um, but first, I wanted to point out what I understand, or what you have as well mentioned sometimes when we were together, that the women's circle, which you have created, um, could be or is a catalyst for personal and collective growth. And it stands for nourishing individuals' souls and so shaping the tapestry of a community. Is this correct?
Yes, absolutely. You've got it.
Fine. So, what was your pivotal moment in your life that called you to create this wisdom circle?
Well, there's been a few pivotal points, but I just created this formally, my business called Wisdom Circles. It was my website and an actual formal way to join these groups in 2022 after the pandemic and lots of isolation and change that happened collectively there. But really, I think the pivotal point for me of when I really dedicated my life to creating circles, and I'd been in circles and dabbling with it before that, but when I was about 42, I went back to graduate school. I quit my corporate job. I was a senior level manager, and I knew something was missing, and I wanted those groups within my work environment to have more meaning and more soulfulness, and it wasn't really part of the culture where I was. So I left and I did some soul searching. I got a master's degree in organizational leadership. I actually began teaching at the university level after that. And in those years when I was reformulating, why is this so calling me and why is it so important? I came I came to really have the realization that um, we are often living these dual lives, and it's important to have our own personal journeys and our human experience in the 3D world. That's why we're here, and we have individual pathways and that call us to that. And yet, if we don't take time to reflect and process what's going on and listen to the deeper currents of the soul's voice, it's exhausting. Life at the surface is exhausting. And so we do our personal work. Many of us have mindfulness practices, we do breath work, we do meditation, we do yoga. But then what? Really, the way I believe we can have the most accelerated, higher vibrational experiences is to be in community with others that are seeking that as well. Because we get inspired, um, we get witnessed. We get witnessed and validated for what is authentically true within us, in our soul, in our essence, when we have the opportunity to share from that place, which is just isn't always invited, you know, in a workplace or in a family dynamic or, you know, in our usual day-to-day lives. So to be in our life and then take time to come out of that a bit and sit in circle with people who want to really go deeper with what's the meaning, what's right for me now. It's constantly changing. So I've decided that the way I can serve best for humanity at this time, when I can do anything, I'm retired from my corporate work, my children are gone. When I can do anything with my life, I want to hold space, sacred space for people to really move with what's their essential self so that they can be their best light in the world. That if I can help ignite them, they ignite others, and it just moves on and ripples out. So that's what I've decided. I guess my pivotal moment, I do want to share, I didn't quite finish that thought. I heard a poem when I was in that stage of just, you know, left the job and figuring out what I was going to do. I wanted to share it because I think it might support others as well.
Yes,
It's just
very
a
much.
short fragment, but it was my mantra for years. And so let me just have you share that with you. It goes like this. Yield who will to their separation. My object in living is to unite my vocation and my advocation, as my two eyes make one in sight. For only when love and need are one, and work is play for mortal stakes, is the deed ever really done for heaven and the future's sake. So sometimes when I forget why I'm working so hard and doing the things I do, I recite that back to myself, that truly my path um, is to find the place where what I love and what I do can ignite something bigger in the world, where work and play are one.
That's
So,
wonderful. That's wonderful. So, was there a time that you had to decide whether you leave the company area, or have you been in the company until you were retired and then you started over new?
well, I left a couple times. I left to stay home with children for a few years. Then I was a single parent for 7 years, and then I remarried, and you know, went, I had to work as a single parent. I went back into the corporate world and did quite well, and enjoyed a lot of what I did. And then I became a university teacher, and then I went on and did some more corporate work and consulting. So I've had dips in and out of readjusting. I've had many different jobs. So,
Yeah, this is important because I think our listener are very interested in what was the pathway for a person, because we are all living at the moment still in the 3D world, in the busy world, the do world, and so many people are, yeah, how do I say? Are in their own business bubble, whatever that is,
yes,
and very less of the people can do this, what you just mentioned, the step back, the reflection, the other world, the inside world. And so when did that start in your life? So what was the moment? For me, it was a car accident, for example, nearly 40 years ago. Did you had any experience where you said, wow, there is another world?
It was pretty early for me. I was 22 when I went to my first workshop for higher consciousness, if you will. It was through a yoga class that I took. They hosted this Ken Keyes, who wrote the Handbook to Higher Consciousness, and it just sort of blew me out of the water that within a weekend, I felt like I had this glimpse into this whole world I never knew was inside of myself. And I started mindfulness practices, meditation, like through, the years beyond that. And I started going to many more of these kinds of conferences. I started a women's circle when I was about 30. And so I've really always been seeking this sense of belonging to something larger. And so I've been in my day-to-day world through all of this, but I've made a commitment with my resources and whatever discretionary time I had. Instead of playing a sport or having a different hobby or whatever, I went to get that inside nurturing, that sort of connection and sense of belonging again to my own essence, but also it was always more impactful in community. I do go off and do my vision quest for myself very, frequently still, at least 3 or 4 times a year. Because I think it's important to do your own personal work, but there's an amplification in the circle collective work too. So I was very fortunate. I discovered it very early. And I think when I left that corporate job the first time, when I discovered that poem and went back to, that's really when I took the deeper dive. But I understand we don't want to just, most of us don't want to live in a cave and be a monk. We want to live full lives, full, beautiful, experiential lives. And that's wonderful as long as we don't get caught in the current of that and forget the heartbeat of who we are. And so we need to keep coming back and touching in again. It's the, the play, the inside and the outside, so that the inside is what's expressing on the outside.
Yeah, so two sides of one coin, and it has to be aware in all of us that we can live both, I say question mark, lives simultaneously. And it doesn't matter if I am a manager or a businesswoman, I can still live this world within myself and have another expression if I have a deep connection to my inner world, isn't it?
Absolutely. And not only that, but my commitment when I went back to my corporate world after my little epiphany, and I committed I would only create environments that I was in that included these types of wisdom circles, I can call it now, but it's a way of counsel, a way of being connected with each other that invites in all of who people are, invites people to be vulnerable, to feel safe. And so in my work environments, I would create little groups, work groups, where we could begin to build those relationships that fostered more innovation, more sense of satisfaction with work. All kinds of wonderful things came. So instead of just me kind of going along with whatever was present in my work environment, I infused into it what I believed could be of value, and it always was. And then people in those circles would go home and do it in their families. They'd have family conversations modeled after some of what we might do at work. And so again, wherever you are, you can have an impact that ripples out and reminds people that it is valuable. They are valued. Their voice is valued, not just what they're doing at the work, but their, what intuition's coming to them about our project. What idea are they kind of shy about mentioning, but could be great? Well, if you create an environment in a circle, and I say circle, I mean, you can be sitting at a conference table, not in a real circle, but the environment of way of counsel circle is what I'm saying. So would you like me to tell you what that means to me?
Yeah, this was my question. I just was thinking the wisdom cycle uses these techniques, way of counsel.
Mhm.
It would be great if you
Yeah.
explain how you do it and how it
Okay.
and what it is.
And it's not hard and it's easy to find information on it. So encourage people if they're curious just to give it a try. But indigenous peoples throughout cultures and times have basically been using most of these aspects of way of counsel. And I don't know, 30 years ago or so, Jack Zimmerman put it into a book called Way of Counsel, and where he actually outlined the major necessary elements for holding space in this way. The first one is confidentiality and kind of creating some safe space with some guidelines and dialogue, that can make sure people understand what's available to them and what the rules of engagement are. The second one is we use some kind of a tool usually to have only one person speak at a time. So over here I have an example of a talking stick,
Talking stick, yeah.
for example. So it could be anything. It could be, something you have. It could be a mouse. But the idea that we respect whoever has the stick as the person who is expressing at that time, and they're not interrupted. So you get your time when you have that. And then there's 4 rules, I guess, for suggestions about how we share. The first is we speak from the heart. So if you come to a meeting and you have in your head, you've been rehearsing what you're going to say, you're invited to put that to the side as a witness to make sure the points get made that you need made, but to drop in and speak about what has heart and meaning for you, about what you want to share with the group. The second rule is that we listen with the heart. As we are witnessing, the witnessing is very active, and it's an invitation to actually listen not only with your brain, but with your heart. Does this feel right to me? Do I have empathy for what this person's saying? So there's a level or a layer different, including, on top of, our valued intellect as well. But, we do that a lot. So the alternative, lesser used faculty is, the capacities of the heart. Capacities of the heart include compassion, innate harmony, things that can be valuable in relating to each other in the group. So speak with the heart, listen with the heart. The third one is spontaneity, which is what I meant by when I said, put what you were going to say to the side. Because in spontaneity, you actually hear yourself say things you didn't know you knew. And you get to discover what is true for you beyond what you already knew about it. And so spontaneity is a wonderful tool, and we honor that. And the fourth capacity, or the fourth engagement rule, if you will, for way of counsel, is being lean of expression. In other words, if you just drool on and on mindlessly about, what we want to say, there could be a jewel or two in there, but you kind of lose people and you're not respecting the time that everyone needs, kind of equal time in the circle. So before you speak, you connect with your heart and you invite yourself to speak what is most important to be said in the moment. And even just reminding yourself that little bit of a suggestion in the time, you'd be surprised people are more aware they'll catch themselves like, oh, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. What I really want to say is,
Mhm.
and sometimes a facilitator can support that, as we're all practicing doing these things together. So we will bring people back and keep sharing time, to a certain amount of time that's agreed on. So that's the difference. Many people are doing women's circles, moon circles, there's all kinds of awareness now around value of gathering together and sharing in authentic ways. And all of that's beautiful. There's all different elements, and different reasons to gather. But way of counsel and wisdom circles are really circles that are intentional around this way of communicating.
This is wonderful. While were talking, I just had like a movie in my eyes, when I'm facilitating, or I'm with management groups, for example, with leaders or CEOs. And so this would be really as well a very good setting to be more authentic and to have more space for intuition. And so we could change with this the world, I would like to say. We could change the companies, we could change the politics, we could change the world, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, small groups of people gathering are how we change the world. It's always
Yeah.
been that way. Margaret Mead, had a famous quote about that.
Mhm.
And I believe that. And people, the other thing that I found doing it in work environments is you keep your best people.
Yeah.
Your retention rate goes up of the creatives
Mhm.
because they want that recognition. They want space to be innovative, to be listened to.
Yeah.
Some, not all employees are like that, but the ones that you really want to keep are the ones that usually will thrive in these environments.
Yeah. Who are developing themselves as real leader, for example. So they gain the ability to lead others, and they can transport this kind of communication with a heart, and as well with knowledge, into the companies and into the world, into the environment, into the groups, in our environment where we live, and stuff like that. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So this uh, is a base to work with certain values from my point of view. So what I get, and you have as well core values, I guess. So which core values are there? Is it collaboration? Um, what kind of core values are the
Core
most
values.
to you?
Well, what comes to my mind, didn't think of it as a core value, but I think uh, it's a sense of belonging, that there's this human need, longing for a sense of belonging. And um, I guess I hold that as a vision or a value that everyone in the circle will feel acknowledged and as if there is a place at the table for them. Because diversity, I guess, by default, then would be a value.
Mm-hmm.
If we're all the same, there's nothing new and different happening. And we get bored, you know. Yes, collaboration for sure. And I value I value the attributes of the essential self, as well as the mind, but I think that's already overemphasized. So it's not that I think it's not as important to have an active, engaged mind, but I think uh, the value on intuition, compassion, that sense of being one with something larger, innate harmony that we can just get to pretty quickly by dropping into that part of ourselves that I call the heart center. Others
Mhm.
call it the soul, the essential self. So I value what that part has to say in each person.
Mhm. So I think, yeah, this is really very essential for the new earth, for example, when we get in a higher vibration. And I think we only can get into a higher vibration when we have these values cultivated within us. So it's sort of how high is your own vibration that you can feel your heart, that you can yeah, discover when you talk too much, talk, and you are out of track, for example. And
Well, it's really the road in, it's
yeah.
the road to knowing, to that vibration, because that vibration just is all the time. And it's just our choice to tap into it or not.
Mhm.
And so I believe that that soulful, essential self, that is our road into the high, the other realms, all the rest. So,
And because this women circle is a tradition, I think, which is long before we lived in our ancestors in
yeah,
hate in integrated.
yeah.
um, and this is one of the things I would like to have more in the world now, because this is a very positive tradition, I would like to say. And on the other hand, what I just popped up, this is a way as well for our kids to have more connection, to have more joy, to have more respect or presence within our circles or our community. And I know that especially young kids or kids are as well a very important topic for you. Would you like to say something about that? Because I know that not only the wisdom circle is something where you put your heart into it, there are more things.
Sure. Yes, you're right. I believe it could be a much easier road for young people should they learn about these tools earlier. When I was going through, my own time being a single parent and having two young boys, I'd been exploring things like vision quests and rites of passage and meditation and dream work. And I've been doing all these things on my own. Go away on my weekends when they were with their dad. I'd go off and do these things. But what I realized is my boys were really struggling at certain points during the divorce process and after. And I started wondering. In fact, I was walking on the beach one day and I kind of got this voice that said, introduce them to these tools. And so I did. I started just playing with that idea of what if I told them about, looking at their dreams. What if I um, made a space and asked them to talk to me from their heart? What if I taught them about silence and about listening to nature? What would happen? And so I was pretty quickly uh, encouraged to keep doing more because, the kids just took to it like that. It was so natural to them. They didn't have any judgment about it. They dropped in. My first vision quest I created for my son when he was 10. I started doing rites of passage when each of my children were 7. And what that included was each birthday time with, that week or so, I would create a day where we'd go, right, we'd do reflection, we'd talk about what was happening, what they needed, and we'd choose a lesson for the year. I would choose it when they were young. And we'd work with that lesson, and then we'd have a way to come back to a conversation around it throughout the year. I'd give them a totem, a medicine bag that they could put their little totem in every year so they'd remember. So there was kind of a process. But at 10, we actually started doing vision quests, which were at least 2 days, sometimes up to 5 days, where we would focus on going somewhere new and different, undiscovered. And it would include a time of reflection, silence, journaling, uh, dialogue around their visions, their hopes, their fears. And we would, at the end of that time, create some kind of a touchstone to those things that they wanted in their life. Sometimes we'd make a shield, we'd make a little collage, a painting or something. So there was a whole process. But anyway, my boys learned that early, and they started, by the time they were in high school, they were doing it for themselves. They kept journals, they did reflection, they set goals, and they both excelled in many ways in different things, in sports and in jobs. And, they're both doing great as adults. And I do think it had a little bit to do with they know how to go back in their heart when they get a little lost on their path. Things aren't satisfying. They don't like something anymore. They think, okay, time to go back inward. Something's off, and they can do that for themselves. And how great if we all learned that, right? As kids. So, yeah, so I am passionate about that. I have circles of moms that talk about how, in fact, something I'd like to do next year is have a little more formal group of parents or guardians, aunties can be as well, but people who really have investment in the health and wellness of a child, and they would like to infuse this into their lives. I'd like to create a circle where we design those vision quests for those children together, and we can learn from each other about place and what to include and lessons. And so there's many elements to it, but it's not difficult, and it's not a formula that you have to follow. It's an art. You include the elements, but you go with your own intuition, your own knowing about what the child needs, and you flow with it. And it's a really wonderful experience for an adult as well to witness at that level the child that they love.
Yeah, wonderful. And I just get, so when we do this in the environment outside as well, in the nature, so you are so much connected to Mother Earth, for example, and to the change of the vibration, which we are going through all together. So there is no one human left on this planet who doesn't go through this energy raising, and some react like strong and stressed, and others feel an expansion in their heart, in their beings, and it's like different time tracks, really, which are
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
yeah,
And it's like it's like a amplification system being out in nature, you know, because it's vibrating with its own essence all the time, the stream and the mountain and the rock. And to even just sit with, a spirit teacher, the rock, out of the tree, and to teach a child how to put their back against the tree and listen to what the tree is saying to them. Um, you just sort of absorb that energy or vibration naturally, you know, rises. And I don't know, and the stress and the chaos and the disharmony in the body naturally just drains out
yeah,
and
yeah,
into the earth.
yeah,
And it's just such a wonderful, simple tool that I think many of us forget about. So yeah, no, and my son, when we did our first vision quest, I was so nervous. I came back and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope everything went all right. I kind of left him for 3 hours alone in the desert. I was watching from a perch. He didn't know where I could see him, but I could. But I went down and I said, well, did everything go okay? He goes, oh my gosh, Mom, the hawk came and he told me this. And then the scorpion over here. I saw this guy, and I learned this from the scorpion, and I was like, oh my word. I mean, he was just wide open because he hadn't really learned to shut all that down yet. And so if you just experiment and give them opportunity, it's so, what I found was it was surprisingly easy and natural for most kids. And I have a couple other children, and they didn't all take to it quite as, quickly as that, but one was a little more resistant and afraid to be alone, and so we had to work through that. But in the end, once they drop in and feel the natural pulsating of the things around them, and they start to harmonize with that, they just flow with that energy, and they can get messaging, they can just get filled up, wonderful feelings, they can feel held and belonging in the world, in a different way. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. So you have written as well in the book, Women Gone Wild, in the intuition book, a chapter about our children. So would you like to explain what it's all about, what you have written? So just in pieces?
Oh, I shared a little bit more about the story I just shared here about the first vision quest of my son, and just that my intention in writing the chapter was to inspire other parents and guardians to just try this, to just support their children with giving them more opportunity to have their intuition nurtured and acknowledged young. So whether it's a vision quest or it's just asking them to speak from their intuitive self, or when they do, when something happens and they say, oh, I had a dream about that. Say, oh, that's fabulous. Isn't that cool how that works? That, you often do know things before they happen, or you get these clues about your life in this way. Isn't that great? In other words, oh, okay, I'll pay attention to it again. But what happens often is that it doesn't get acknowledged. And so that faculty, that natural ability we're all born with, gets dumbed down or buried. And often it's, midlife where people are trying to rediscover their intuition. But if we can nurture it early, as the adults in the lives of the children we love, um, they'll remember it and they'll keep using it. So that's really the main mission.
Yeah, I think we all should have more curiosity. What is the nature talking to us? And I know as well when you just mentioned your son talked to snake or whatever and got information, that in reality many people get information, but they put them away, so they don't trust themselves. And I think it has really something to do with self-trust, self-belief. What would you say? How can a person get into this really, I know what I know, so in this self-belief, self-trust, what would you say? What is a good practice for people just in these chaotic times which we have now, and we don't know what's economically going on all over the place in the world? So what would be your suggestion?
Well, I'm a little biased, but I would say begin to gather with people who will validate for you and for each other that it's important to make space and listen from the heart. And yeah, can we get caught in those currents of the collective, and it's a practice, it's just showing up and practicing. And once, so you could just call 3 friends that you think are open to this idea, invite them for tea, and say, I'm feeling a need to be more authentic, to feel, to understand more about something, whatever you want to, put out as something to gather around. And you can do it so many different ways. You can have art circles. You can have, afternoon teas, but don't let them go into just social talk, but we're here to listen with the heart and hear what, speak from the heart, etc. So I don't know. For me, that has been the most valuable thing through my whole life. When I look at all the different kinds of education and conferences and all of that, I got the most personal amplification and validation for this essence of mine in the circles that I got to attend. So I'm passionate about helping everyone start circles. I don't know if this book was important to me. This Millionth Circle by Jean Shinoda Boland came out about 20 years ago. And her thing is really we need a million circles because they only work in, small circles work because everyone has a chance to be heard. When you're in a group of 100, it's much harder. So small circles everywhere. Just try it, start one.
That's great. Robin, I know that you are leading or guiding or facilitating or creating circles, and it's wonderful because I had the privilege to join one circle. You did a circle for us in where was it? In LA at the end of our book launch. And I was really impressed. I was really touched deep, deep, deep side in me. I had tears. I was crying. So this was very, very intense on one level. Do you offer open circles, for example, that somebody just can join to sneak in to see what's happening? How is it? How would you say you do the work?
Yes, I will be having some new offerings coming up. I just had some existing groups this year. I had a couple health challenges that, we had the book tour and all of that. So I didn't do a lot of new circles this year. I just did a couple. But there will be more. But I'm also really excited about a circle, both an online opportunity to learn about how to lead circles, how to facilitate them. I'm going to be getting that more formally going this coming year in 2025. And my vision is that I can only lead so many. So I really want to resource people with the confidence and the tools to get out there and do their own, because everybody will have their own sweet, unique angle and collect people that wouldn't be attracted to work with me. But again, spreading this idea of working in small, conscious, intentional, vibrationally high groups. And so I would love to have many more people feeling really confident about getting out there and doing that. So that will be available coming up, and I will have some circles as well. There'll probably be one that's kind of doing me right now. A new circle I'll be starting is called Be a Blessing Wisdom Circle. And what are we doing in the world this week, and how we can inspire each other with each other's ideas about how we do that. So that's an open circle that'll be coming up in 2025. So there'll be more, and I just touch in and go with what feels right to me as well. So I don't always know more than, 6 months out what I'm doing next. But the other thing I am going to do is some retreats, and they are powerful too. I just finished a 3-day retreat this past weekend called Hidden Harvests, and we had 12 women gather, and we did a labyrinth walk. We did two beautiful rituals. We did an art process, meditation, walks in nature. I mean, it was just a fabulous mix of things that will help us really build that strength back into, our, sometimes we come to these retreats sometimes exhausted, but we leave really filled again by, oh yeah, there it is. Oh, now I remember. Oh yeah, those are the, oh, I'm excited now. I remember these inspirations came through. So, so retreat is another fabulous tool in Circle, and I'm going to be offering more of those because I just know how powerful they can be. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Leading
so there'll be things, but I have free consultation too available through my website if you want to just chat with me for 20 minutes or so and tell me what you're looking for. I can possibly support people in learning more about what they want to do next.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and concerning what do you want to do next is my two last questions before we finish our wonderful talk. I have two questions for you, Robin.
Mhm.
So what do you want for the world? And what do you want for yourself?
I would like the world to begin to know, to really know and sense the power of the feminine nature, which includes intuition, and it includes collaboration, and it includes harmony with nature and things around us. And I really hope the world will begin to pay more attention, value, and embody, men and women, embody the powerful attributes of the feminine nature. That's what I hope.
Yes. And for yourself?
And for myself, I want to be exquisitely present in every moment of my life. And I want to touch hearts and lives in authentic ways as they come across my path. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you so much for your work, for your patience. Yeah, for everything you do for women as well for men, because if you and the circles are changing the energy and the frequency, we are changing everything. So it's really the power within. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart that you do this work for all of us. So thank you for being my guest.
We're on the same train. We're doing great work, and I love what you're doing as well. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a delight to be witnessed.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey and tell others about this channel. And please subscribe.